Ever stop and wonder if the world you experience is, well, the real world? Or is it maybe a story that you're telling yourself about what's happening? Today, we are diving deep into a fascinating, kind of mind-bending concept from psychoanalysis called psychic reality. It might just change how you think about your own mind, and we're going to be using the work of Lawrence Friedman as our guide. So, where are we getting all this from? Well, our main source is a paper straight from the International Journal of Psychoanalysis. We're going right to the heart of the matter to really understand this tricky and honestly pretty heavily debated idea from the inside. So let's just start right there with that huge question. Think about your day. How much of it is just raw, objective fact? And how much of it is the narrative, the story you've spun around those facts to make it all make sense? That tension, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. And this brings us to the core concept, psychic reality. See, it's not just about what happens to you. It's more of a cocktail, right? It's a mix of the cold, hard facts of the outside world and your own internal editor, your wishes, your personal history, your fantasies. It's the world seen through your own unique filter. Okay, but here's where it gets really complicated. The term psychic reality actually gets used in two totally different, almost opposite ways. And this, as you can imagine, creates a huge headache for anyone trying to understand the mind. One view is super practical, the other is incredibly profound, and honestly, they're kind of at war with each other. And here is that conflict, laid out perfectly. Is a person's inner life a neat, mounted specimen? A simple, tidy story with a clear beginning, middle, and end? Or is it more like a chaotic, fluttering butterfly, the entire messy, infinitely complex world of everything we feel and think from moment to moment? All right, let's dive into that first idea, the mounted specimen view. This is the idea of psychic reality as a simple, practical tool, a map of the mind. So put yourself in a therapist's shoes for a minute. You've got this swirling storm of emotions, memories, and thoughts happening in the room. A simple blueprint, a clear script of the patient's inner movie, well, that's a total lifesaver. It gives you something concrete to work with. And you can see why this approach is so appealing. This simple map gives a therapist interpretations a sense of authority and focus. It helps create a shared language for talking about these huge, messy things like love and hate. And get this, it can even be a form of protection. Intense emotions can be seen as part of an inner story, not just a direct personal attack on the therapist. So really, the bottom line here is that this way of thinking provides a stable, understandable framework. It takes the dizzying, kind of boundless chaos of a person's mind and organizes it into a plain scene that you can actually look at, talk about, and work on. But what happens when you hold up that neat little map against the vast, wild, messy territory of our actual lived experience? Well, that's when the whole thing starts to look a little too simple. Just think about your own inner world for a second. It's not always some grand, epic story with clear good guys and bad guys, right? Sometimes it's way more subtle. It's more like Proust. It's full of these vague feelings, moods that don't really have a plot, and quiet little sensations that don't fit into any clean story. And this brings us to that fluttering butterfly. This is psychic reality seen as the entirety of your experience. As Friedman so brilliantly puts it, it's an unsorted mass of reverberating signals. It's everything all at once. Every memory, every half-baked thought, every fleeting feeling. And look, while this view feels a lot more honest, a lot more true to life, it's a practical nightmare. If psychic reality is everything, this overwhelming cloud of signals, where on earth does an analyst even start? It's like trying to find one specific grain of sand on a beach that goes on forever. So, if the simple map is just too simple and the whole territory is just too overwhelming, where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us right in the messy, complicated, and frankly, the most interesting place, the middle. The most powerful way to think about this is that psychic reality is a constant dance. It's this ongoing negotiation between the facts that life just throws at you and the way you purposefully choose to arrange them, to edit them, and to give them meaning. And this is where real growth, real change can happen. Responsibility isn't about pretending you invented your life story out of thin air. No, it's about looking at the unavoidable things that happen to you and then seeing how you shaped that raw material into the life you're living. But this tricky middle ground, it doesn't give us any easy answers. what it does is force us to wrestle with some of the biggest, most fundamental questions about what a mind even is and what it really means to be a person. So let's start with this one. Is your inner reality a hard fact? Is it possible for you to be wrong about your own feelings or fantasies? Or is your perception of them automatically the absolute truth just because it's yours? And here's another one to chew on. Is your inner world like a book that's already written, just sitting there waiting to be read? Or do you actually create its meaning in the very moment you try to put it into words for someone else, or even just for yourself? And this leads to a question about the very architecture of our minds. Does a fantasy, say, start as just a vague mood, a shadowy feeling in the background that only snaps into a clear story when we decide to turn our attention to it and give it a name? Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought to ponder. If our reality is built on these inner stories, these templates, just how deep, how vague, how shadowy can those foundations be? Where does the story we tell ourselves end? And where do we ourselves actually begin? That, right there, is the mystery at the very heart of psychic reality.